For those of you who are debating going on the GAPS diet, or if you are on it and you are feeling a little bit discouraged or frustrated maybe, I want to go ahead and share my experience on the GAPS diet, the full truth about the GAPS diet that maybe some people won't tell you, and ultimately some testimonies that I can vouch for. Hi, my name is Selena from Wholeness Campaign. I make videos for people wanting to heal naturally from chronic illness, whether it's through gut health, detoxification, and non-toxic living tips. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, please consider subscribing to my channel as I make new videos like this every week. In this video, I want to share a little bit of my own personal experience on the GAPS diet, a little bit of a timeline. If you've been following me along for any period of time, you may know that I have seen extremely good success on the GAPS diet, but that hasn't always been like the entire picture of my process. And so I want to give you like the nitty-gritty details of what actually has happened to me on the course of time that I've started GAPS up until now, where I am currently like breastfeeding, how diet has kind of played into all of that, and also a little bit of some testimony from my husband's perspective, who has been more strictly on GAPS for the last 8 months-ish. So this is kind of a compiled story of 4 years. Yeah, I'm really going to give you the lowdown if you're debating it, if you're considering going into a deep dive for gut healing. So let's jump in. My whole kind of like healing story starts out a little bit crazy. I was overseas multiple times, came back with all sorts of parasites and bugs and very sick. I spent a childhood taking tons and tons of rounds of antibiotics. So I had a very weak gut, very weak immune system. And when I went into college like that and then ultimately got married, I was really looking for answers. I was really ready to kind of take a full like deep dive shift on my health because I experienced so much negative symptoms at that point that I was just like ready to make a change. And on top of that, I had a series of concussions that left me pretty debilitated. And so I was looking for something that addressed the brain side of things, the neurological side of things, as well as the digestive side of things, because I had issues in both. And I knew they were kind of influencing each other from like the little bit of knowledge that I had at the time. So yeah, at that point, I think I was 2 years into really extreme post-concussive syndrome. I had migraines, dizziness. I wasn't able to drive at one point. I dropped out of school at one point because I couldn't be in a classroom. I couldn't be around lights. I still couldn't be on technology for extended periods of time without me getting a headache. And I was literally allergic to everything, you guys. I could not drink water without having an extreme digestive reaction. And I won't get into all the details of that, but it was really bad. I had stomach pain with almost every single thing I ate. I kept trying to cut things out and I saw some improvements, but I was essentially extremely allergic to dairy, where any little speck of it would cause me to flare up really bad and get really intense inflammation response, really tons of bloating, tons of pain in my stomach. And yeah, I kind of got to the point 1 month into marriage, ironically, where I was just ready for a complete like rehab of my health. And I was looking into a bunch of different diets at the time. I had done Whole30 for a time because that really suppressed a lot of the inflammation and a lot of symptoms. They cut out a ton of the triggers for me. But then I wanted to go a step deeper, so I was looking into AIP, and AIP was again like a huge step further than what I had done in Whole30. But really like changing up my diet radically didn't bother me at all. And so that's something to note here. Like if you're hearing this and you're like, oh, I could never do that, you may not have been where I was at. I was literally like so ready to do whatever it took because I was just debilitated. When I learned about GAPS, I started realizing that there's kind of like this common thread in all of these diets that I was looking into, which was that there was clean whole foods. So there's a really big emphasis on like taking out anything processed, taking out anything fake, really looking at ingredients and sticking to whole foods. But the cool thing about GAPS is they take out some of the more inflammatory foods, but not just taking them out, but they'll replace them with the more nourishing foods. And I wasn't seeing that in any other protocol that is available, any of the more like mainstream diet. And so I was intrigued by that. I was intrigued by the fact that they didn't believe you had to be on it forever, that there was actually like a deep time of healing. And then the idea that you could potentially reintroduce foods and not have the reaction, that there's actually a healing process taking place, not just okay, you have an autoimmune condition, so you're going to be on this diet for the rest of your life. It was really interesting to me that the idea of your microbiome being able to repair itself and heal itself if you actually gave it the right stuff. So anyway, we decided 1 month into marriage that my husband and I were both going to start Intro to GAPS, having had no experience cooking any of the like staple foods having literally no experience really like cooking most of our food from scratch because we had been eating cafeteria food on my campus for literally the last 3 years, and then I was like living at home. And so it was like complete shell shock, and my husband kind of went through this like huge phase of like emotional detoxification when it started coming to like cutting out everything that he had loved, not going to restaurants. It was really like emotionally taxing. But the crazy thing is we were doing so many things wrong. Like I could give you like a laundry list of things we were doing like technically incorrectly on the GAPS diet, but it was like 2 weeks in and I noticed literally like all of my symptoms decreased slightly, at least, and some of them went away. So I'm not saying that they completely went away within 2 weeks, but all of them had noticeable improvements. Not, oh, I didn't like feel good or whatever. I literally noticed every single one of them get slightly better, especially the headaches. The headaches were like the most debilitating thing of everything because I would get these migraines that would just last all day. And they were related to concussions, but then I started realizing more that there's a level of it that was related to toxicity and malnourishment. And so I literally, being on this protocol for like 2 weeks, for one, intro was really where it was best for me to start because it eliminates a lot of fiber, which I was very reactive to. And it just puts your body into this extreme state of detox, which was exactly what I needed at the time. So the crazy thing is I wasn't doing a lot of it right. I was like making meat stock incorrectly. I was not using the best water I could have had. There was a lot of things I wasn't doing right, but I saw so much improvement just initially with the changes I was making that it gave me so much momentum to keep going. And so it was about like a year, I think it was like a year and a half into it, doing that, where I started to notice like my progress kind of plateau. And I was wondering why that happened because I felt like I was doing all the right things. Actually took Lauren Meadowsweet's GAPS Academy course where she like breaks down everything. So I learned how to do things like the correct way to the nth degree. Like it was really in depth. And so I started changing a lot of like my processes. Started really focusing on the nutrient-dense food. I was eating liver. I actually started looking into more of the detox support side of things. I found that this wall I hit, this kind of stagnancy, instantly lifted the more that I started specifically focusing on detox support. And more specifically, we'll say coffee enemas was like the complete game changer for me. I literally, like, I had such extreme fatigue at the time that I really associated with so many of my neurological issues, but I came to find out that so much of that was, I think, my body getting into this state of detox, potentially from the past things that I've put my body through. So, as well as like a high parasitic load. So I started doing coffee enemas. Very shortly after that, I started passing tons of parasites. Like I was in probably, I did coffee enemas every single day for over a year, probably more like a year and a half, because I felt so incredible on them. And that paired with the diet was just like kind of like the keys for me. They might not be the keys for you, but it really was worth like it. I don't know, it would be worth trying, really worth looking into like the detox support side of things, because that was the thing that kind of like unlocked things for me. So yeah, I went from not seeing much progress after a year and a half into it to like rapid progress. Energy levels were really high. I started really feeling good. Like I actually felt back to my normal self, which was crazy. So that's why I kept going and doing the coffee enemas, because I was like, this is incredible. I feel so good. Yeah, I mean, if you knew where I was at before, I literally couldn't focus. I was so brain fogged, so fatigued, so dizzy all the time. And I think there's a whole side of this that was neurological related. And I did a lot of like neuro rehab in the time period before this, but the detox support I noticed was the thing that took me the rest of the way to where I'm at right now. I got to a really good place of progress, honestly, and then we moved into our house, and we didn't realize at the time, but our house is extremely moldy. The cool thing about all of this is that I actually never reacted in any kind of major way to our house, which you may be expecting me to say, and then my health tanked, but no, I did not. And I did a whole series on mold, so if you're interested in learning like how do you like attack mold from a more holistic perspective and stay kind of mentally sane, that would be like a good resource if you're interested. But basically, I kind of came up against like what would be a challenge for my body maybe, and found that my body was like in such a strong place of being able to respond to it. I had been in moldy environments before. I had had really bad asthma in the past, and so this felt like really amazing that I could actually like overcome living in a moldy space for a time while it was getting remediated and all this stuff, and feel good and feel like myself still. So that's just a testimony to like the fact that I seriously, like, detox support is so important. Like, your body just gets tipped over the edge when it's exposed to environmental toxins, and you do have the power to actually like work that out of your body from like an inside out approach, as opposed to like making sure the environment's perfect, if that makes sense. So we did get our house remediated and then ended up getting pregnant. So that first trimester, it's just you eat whatever you can eat and there is no complaining about anything. I had like a very easy pregnancy for the most part, honestly. Like, my energy levels stayed really high for, you know, it naturally dips in certain points of pregnancy, but it felt like I could manage really well. And so the beginning of it was tricky. I didn't eat perfectly, and I didn't expect myself to eat perfectly, but part of pregnancy is halting all of the detox. And so I really stopped, you know, coffee enemas, I stopped saunas, I stopped anything really I was taking a lot of different binders and supplements that were supporting detoxification. And that was kind of the saddest part about pregnancy, because I wanted to obviously protect my baby, but I also felt so good taking these things and doing these things that was a little bit challenging. And yeah, I think there was a time where I ate literally only bacon and pineapple in my first trimester. It was probably like 2 weeks where like all I wanted was bacon. And then I ate so much pineapple that like I got cold sores all in my mouth, which is like really not like the vibe of GAPS, if that makes sense. Nonetheless, it's like you just do what you can. You do what you can. Once the baby was born, my husband kind of started taking a deeper look into his health, because he was experiencing some really intense symptoms from a variety of different things. But he was diagnosed with Hashimotos. He has had other autoimmune conditions, and so he decided he wanted to take a deep dive. If you notice a pattern here, we don't like do things in the most peaceful timing for whatever reason. Like, get married, go on intro gap, change your whole diet, and stay on stage 2 gaps for 6 months. So part of that was like I was going to go with him, and so I did do stage 2 with him pretty much. I actually do really well on stage 2 still. I noticed that even on full gaps, there are some things that I am still a little bit reactive to. So I'm kind of like hanging on with his progress to just see more progress in my own health. Like, I'm not fully at the place that I would love to be someday, but I am so much further from where I was that I don't even consider myself to be like sick, if that makes sense. So we're doing this all together, me and my husband, stage 2, as long as he needs. We set out for a year, and he ended up needing less time because he healed really quickly. Detox support was key for him as well. He noticed a dramatic shift when he started doing coffee enemas, and it's just like, it purges so many heavy metals and toxins. It's like insane. If you're taking anything away from this, I want you to take away that GAPS is so much more than just the food side of things. It's also the detox, and it's also the environmental support. So that's kind of what I'm all about here on my channel. Like, I want to address health from an inside out approach, but gut health, detoxification, and non-toxic living they all influence your health probably the most. And so I do want to just kind of make a note here that like, overall, we've seen trajectory upwards. We've seen improvement over time, but there have been times like that we still literally take some probiotics and we still have a detox reaction. And a lot of people get that detox reaction right out the gate. And so they kind of write off something like GAPS because it's uncomfortable. It could actually make you feel worse before you get better. That's part of the reality that we live in such toxic environments. Our bodies are weighed down from generational toxins, and you start to nourish yourself and your body's going to start to trust you and start to release those toxins, and it does not always feel good. But I've noticed on the other side of every single detox reaction, I'm feeling better and better and better, despite the fact that the environment around me is, statistically speaking, getting worse and worse and worse. So I just want to kind of provide that like tidbit of hope there, because it's easy to think that, you know, we're all just screwed because the environment is just terrible. And it's true, it is. It's really terrible. But I do always believe that people have the capacity and the ability to heal. And it's so multifaceted, but it's true. So overall, I love it. I suggest it, the GAPS diet, but I also don't think that it's the only way that you can heal. I think there's principles about the GAPS diet you could incorporate into your life, gut health, detoxification principles that you could add into your life, especially if you're not ready to make such a dramatic change that honestly could swing the needle for you. Like, for me, I even like hit a plateau being on GAPS for a year and a half, but I started to realize like adding in just coffee enemas could take my energy levels through the roof. So if you're not quite ready for like a dramatic change, I would just say the GAPS diet could also introduce some principles to you that may actually support your health and could actually completely eliminate your symptoms even without the radical diet change. But where I was at, I was just ready to go all in. So it's available if you're there like I was, and still kind of am, where I'm just like, I'm going to go all in and I feel good. And so I'm going to enjoy these foods because they feel like the best foods for me right now. So our plans going forward is we're going to just kind of stay the course. I'll keep you updated. We've seen so many radical results on this diet. My husband had Raynaud syndrome and it literally almost completely went away. Couldn't be in cold for longer than like a few minutes without his hands going completely numb. That's almost completely gone, which was crazy. He's had that for over 10 years, and that's like 6 months of being on stage 2 intro gaps. So it's a powerful thing when you go ahead and heal that leaky gut and, you know, strengthen your body's immunity. If you're looking for a easy way to get started healing your gut, whether you're choosing to be on gaps or not, I do have a quick guide to gut health that I'll have linked in the description box below. It gives like all of my best tips for gut healing, especially if you're just getting started. And if you got any value out of this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. It's my passion to walk alongside people as they heal and grow. It inspires me and hopefully brings encouragement to you. Thanks for watching.